You're listening to RetRead Podcast. I'm Anna.
I'm Serge, and we're here to talk about books we've read.
Hope you enjoy. Hey, Serge.
Hey, Anna. How's it going? Going good?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's good. We're here to do another
episode of RetRead Podcast.
That's right. First of all, if you guys haven't noticed already, we are doing randocasts where we review random things that we've recently looked at.
Or listened to, or read.
So yeah, most recently we listened to an audiobook of My Side of the Mountain.
Check out our randocast to see what we thought about it.
We liked it. Anyway, what have you been reading lately?
I read a lot of books recently. What book should I talk about? There's one book I truly hated, but I don't feel like slamming that book anymore.
You already ripped that one a new one on Goodreads.
Yeah, so I'll let that one go.
Well, yeah, so you mentioned last time that you were reading The Animators.
Right, so I finished that book. It's really well done. It's a debut novel by Kayla Rae Whitaker. I think calling it a modern-day Cavalier and Clay really does this book a disservice. You know, the only similarity that it has to Cavalier and Clay is the fact that it kind of deals with a art form of telling a story, where Cavalier and Clay is a comic book, but they deal with animation. Beyond that, there's really not much else.
One of the characters is homosexual, same as Cavalier and Clay, so hence there's another parallel.
It is very dissimilar to Cavalier and Clay in many, many ways. Like, the two similarities does not make it a modern day female Cavalier and Clay. That honestly does it a disservice. So yeah, I think comparing it to Cavalier and Clay is just very, very lazy. The characters Sharon and Mel are just the soul of the book. There's such loving writing that went into crafting these characters and everything about them. And then between the characters, there's just so much love and compassion as well. You know, they drift apart several times throughout the entire story, but they constantly think about each other and they care about each other and it keeps bringing them back together. They're not partners in the sense of lovers or anything like that, but in a sense they are life partners because they aren't just partners in business. They care about each other in a way that...
It's like a best friend story. That's actually really appealing. I feel like that level of commitment in a relationship, not commitment, what am I talking about? That deep bond, that's something a lot of people strive for and long for in their relationship. And so reading about that in a book might be something, definitely would be a big draw for me, I think.
Yeah, there's something really beautiful about their friendship. They bond when they meet in college. They're both sort of outcasts. They go to a liberal arts, visual arts college in the North. And, you know, they're both kind of scholarship students. They're not the rich, uppity, want to piss off their parents and go to this really expensive school because mommy and daddy can pay for it. So they're there. These girls wanted to go to the school. They wanted to do something with their art. And they just bonded over their love of esoteric 80s, 90s, 70s animation that the rest of their classmates just didn't get. And through that, they learned a lot about each other's art. And they found a way to make each other's styles mesh together. And then that just brought them closer and closer together. And, you know, neither one of them really were close to their families. They had issues with making other friends. So they were just each other's pillars. That's really great to see.
That's pretty cool.
There's a saying that says tragedy brings people together, and that is something that's really used to great effect in this book. Because it's not a spoiler, but one of the huge driving forces is when Mel's mother dies in prison. And Mel was never able to tell her mother about their projects or the fact that one of their animated shorts was based on her mother's life. And that really affected Mel greatly. And it sort of drove the two apart. Sharon just didn't know how to deal with how Mel was spiraling out of control. And it got to the point where Sharon was thinking of just ending their friendship and joining this artist collective with one of their rivals because she just didn't want to deal with it anymore. And suddenly Sharon has a stroke and that just changes everything. And Mel just takes over. Sharon's family doesn't know about the stroke, and Mel just stays with her the entire time when Sharon's in a coma, when she comes out of the coma, when she has to learn how to speak, write, eat, everything all over again. Mel is there to just help her. And she doesn't push her, even though that's the type of personality Mel has. She just lets Sharon take things at her own pace. It's really nice.
That's something, because going back to Cavalier and Clay, so I haven't read this book, but I've read Cavalier and Clay. The relationship there is actually pretty different. You know, they start off being really close, and you'd think it would go like this, but in the end, I forget which one of them, but it ends up he's actually not there for the other one. He goes off and does his own selfish thing. Even at the end, when they see each other again, it's not the same anymore. Their lives have moved on, and they're just not like they used to be. So it's really nice to see a duo stay together. This is not like Cavalier and Clay. This is like a response to Cavalier and Clay almost. Like saying, no, this is how friendship can be, where instead of abandoning each other through the hard times, you can actually come together through the hard times.
Well, there's also another message where Mel has a problem with drugs. She drinks a lot of cough syrup, does a lot of drinking, and Sharon desperately wants to help Mel. But because Mel doesn't want help, Sharon just has to watch her basically self-destruct. And as a reader, you're brought in on this journey where you desperately want Sharon to do something for Mel, and then you see how Mel is just pushing back. You want to get her that help as well. As a reader, you're sort of at the outskirts of their partnership, and you just want them to be perfect together, and you just can't do anything, and you're just watching everything fall apart and come together and fall apart. And that's something not every writer is able to do, and I think this author did a fantastic job with that.
So you're really selling this book. What was your rating for it?
I gave it 4.5 stars out of 5, and that rounds up to 5 stars for Goodreads. Yeah, there's also the secondary characters are pretty well done, which you don't always see. But one thing that I really liked beyond the characters is that it makes you question art. I told you that their first animated short was based on Mel's mother's life, and Mel's mother was basically a prostitute, and she did drugs, and she was in a good mother, and she ended up going to jail. She's just a horrible mother all around to Mel. And basically, Mel used her mom's life and just made this animated short about her that was not flattering at all. She didn't get permission to do it. So one of the things that kept coming up was people kept saying, how dare you put someone else's life out there for everyone to judge and you benefit from and you come off scot-free, but this person to the public will be judged a certain way, and what gives you that right to do that to that person? That's a question that keeps coming up because their next movie that they want to do is focusing on Sharon's life. Her mom is just categorically against her life being put on display to the point where it drives Sharon and her apart some more. How dare you air our dirty laundry? I loved you so much. I cared for you so much, etc., etc. And then the next door neighbor that Sharon grew up with, he feels the same way. How dare you put, because a huge part of it is the fact that his dad was caught dealing child pornography and raping girls. And that was something that affected Sharon greatly. She actually saw some of the pictures. As a little kid, she didn't know how to process that. So it affected her entire life, just going back to that memory from her childhood. And as you grow older, memories sort of change. She's at the point where she doesn't know what the pictures were. She was adding things to the pictures. She saw herself in those pictures, and it really scarred her deeply. So she thought that by making this a story, it would help her exercise her demons. But the childhood friend was basically like, this was also scarring for me. And now I spent years trying to put this behind me. I had to testify in court against my own dad. You know, I became that person, and now you're making me that person again. And how dare you do this to me without my permission? And it just really brings up this whole moral gray area in artwork that most people don't think about.
Jeez. Wow, what a downer.
So basically, the ultimate question is, you don't need permission for a work like this, but should there be a line drawn somewhere? At what point does it go from being your story to being someone else's story, and do you have the right to make that public?
Yeah, and I'm sure there's legal ramifications here too, aside from just the moral questions.
Their lawyers basically said that it was okay to do what they were doing.
Well, then it's fine.
But it's a moral question.
Yeah, but you know what? I feel like as an artist, sometimes if you're not challenging those boundaries, then you're limiting yourself and you're limiting your artwork. So you're not going to reach your full potential. If you're pushing up against that boundary, that means there's something inside of you that's pushing you in that direction. That is your true form of self-expression. And so if you decide to turn back because of whatever moral compunctions, that means you're limiting your own self-expression. You're not achieving your full potential in your artwork. I think that is the greater evil there, is not achieving your full potential as an artist. Okay, evil maybe is going too far, but basically, if you want to really achieve your full potential, then you better be willing to break the boundaries. If you look at all the great artists over history, they broke the moral boundaries and constraints of their time, and they challenged those, and that's what made them great. Nobody remembers the artists that went along with whatever the social mores of the day were and just meekly bowed their heads to all of society's demands. No, the great names of art that we remember to this day are the ones that shattered those boundaries, shattered those limitations, broke free of those shackles and chains and said, no, I don't care what society thinks, what other people think about this. I am creating this because this is where my creativity is taking me. That's my personal opinion on that.
Did you use the creativity quotient to figure that out?
Yeah, that's definitely a thought.
But that was basically Mel's argument within the book. It's a book worth reading, I feel. It's a debut novel. It's very, very strong for a debut novel. I highly recommend it.
All right, well, on the strength of that, I would say I gotta recommend it too, even though I've never even seen the book.
Maybe you should read it.
Okay, so on that note,
we're gonna go to intermission, and afterwards we'll talk about Fear Street,
the Sleepwalker.
Welcome back.
Hey, yeah, we're back. So, right off the bat, last episode we made a couple predictions about the Sleepwalker. We'll go into mine first. I said that the murderer would be male, that there would be... Okay, so this was obviously just a guess based on how it's been going so far. Most of them have been male, so I was correct. It was the male. Pretty much the whole rest of this thing is just based on looking at the cover, which was so descriptive. You could tell just by looking at the cover a lot of things about the book. Somebody's sleepwalking in the middle of the night. They're wearing their nightgown. You know, they look dazed and confused. Clearly out in Fear Street somewhere. Maybe close to the woods, I was guessing. Both Anna and I thought there was some kind of possession/witchcraft thing going on. Because, like, I mean, why would you be sleepwalking out to Fear Street? I don't know. Maybe you were possessed by a witch. Cursed. Who knows? Yeah. So, and I said the cause of death would be strangulation. There is a little bit of choking going on, but nobody dies from it. Anna, what were your predictions?
I think I said that the murderer would be a female,
Yeah.
and I was wrong.
Yeah. But you got the cause of death spot on.
Yes, I said it'd be drowning because there's someone walking into water in on the cover, and if you're not drowning someone with a cover like that, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
I also said that she would be sleepwalking to the lake.
Yeah, and that was really good. Honestly, I didn't see the lake or any kind of water in the cover. I really didn't get that. Oh, yeah. Now...
I'm showing you the cover right now, and there's clearly water splashing up.
Yep, I must have missed that. So anyway, good catch on the water. I think Anna did better this time around. We both did okay, basically. Neither of us really saw this coming, I gotta say.
Yeah, not from this cover.
No.
What the book is about is this girl called Mayra.
Yeah, Mayra. Yeah, cool name.
Yeah, it's a really cool name.
Yeah.
Maybe
Mayra.
It's an interesting spelling for Mayra.
Yeah.
So Mayra is...
Maybe Mayra. Mayra.
So we're just going to call her that from now on?
Mayra.
So Mayra has a summer job. Mayra has a summer job with Mrs. Cotler. After a few days, she starts sleepwalking to Fear Lake. She just wakes up in the middle of, by the lake shore or in the lake itself. Doesn't know what's going on. And this happens.
She almost drowns at one point.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. She doesn't know what's going on. She's pretty sure Mrs. Cotler is a witch who has performed a spell and is trying to kill her.
Yeah, so this... She's kind of jumping to conclusions here. Basically, her friend Stephanie mentioned witchcraft a couple times, and now she's got it in her head that, like, witches are a thing. It's pretty simple of her, really, but she finds some black candles in a drawer.
Mrs. Cotler has a black cat.
It's a little bit of a stretch. Strange things do happen on Fear Street. Mrs. Cotler's neighbor ends up getting injured after getting in a verbal argument with her. She has a piece of his handkerchief, and the witch needs, like, a piece of your clothing or maybe, like, a hair in order to perform her curse, right? So, hey now. Things come to a head at the end because her sleepwalking is getting worse and worse. On top of that, there's a weird, muscly guy that's chasing her around town. She doesn't know why because she never lets him catch her. She just runs away. Her friend gets run off the road by, like, a red pickup truck while her friend is driving her car. So now she suspects that somebody's trying to, like, actually kill her. It's pretty crazy.
Let's go into the characters.
Yeah, so let's start with
Mayra. So Mayra is the main character in this book. She's being raised by a single mom along with her sister Kim.
She's so cute. Always cracking jokes. You know, she secretly, like, really looks up to her big sister.
She reminds me of DW from Arthur, and that is just not a good comparison.
You know what? She just wants attention. At her age, Mayra and Kim are being raised by a single mom
Their dad is out of the picture completely. They don't even know where he is.
Yeah, he just pieced out. The mom's working really hard as a nurse at the hospital. She probably works like really long hours. Sometimes she has to work odd hours, I'm sure, as a nurse. She's just like trying to make enough money for everyone to get by. In fact, Mayra's summer job is
being paid for some of...
Exactly. It's key to the family. Like at one point she wants to quit her job because she's afraid of all the witchcraft going on. And her mom's like, no, we need the money. You can't quit. They're not in a good financial situation. And so the thing is, like, Kim, her joking around and her, like, happy little facade, underneath, she just wants to have more attention because she's like a little kid. Her mom is so busy and focused, just trying to make enough money to make the family get by. Her older sister's already in high school and, like, off in her little high school world. And Kim just probably, maybe that's just her way of saying, hey, guys, I'm right here.
DW.
I know, but so we're digressing. Now we're talking about Kim for some reason. Hey, Mayra, she's kind of a cool character. She's a little bit simple. There's a couple of things that are simple about her. First of all, this whole witchcraft thing that she jumps to a conclusion on. You know, secondly,
she has horrible taste in guys.
Yeah, she likes weirdos. Honestly, her ex-boyfriend's a weirdo. Her current boyfriend's a weirdo.
They're all just weird people. They're kind of stalkerish, and they're just really creepy.
And going back to her being a simpleton, her boyfriend is clearly cheating on her, and she doesn't even, like...
She catches him cheating on her.
Yeah, this is...
She walks in on him cheating on her.
Yeah, and this is where, you know that song? The refrain is, wasn't me. This is the case where it wasn't me actually works. Your boyfriend's a dirtbag. Wasn't me. Oh, okay. No. He's good.
Yeah, everyone in her life hates her boyfriend. They're basically telling her, he's cheating on you.
Yeah.
And she goes, but he said he didn't.
Yeah.
So...
But she's got a lot going on. You know what? She's got a really good friend in Donna.
Oh yeah, let's talk about Donna.
Donna's like the friend that everybody wants to have. Stands by you. You know, you may be like making horrible life choices. They're there to tell you that maybe you're not right, but they're not going to bug you about it, and they're still going to be your friend. That's kind of cool. She's got a great sense of humor. I mean, this girl, she like nearly dies in a horrific car crash. She's all like bandaged up and in casts and stuff. She's got tubes sticking out of her, as is mentioned several times. She's still in pretty good spirits.
I think it's the morphine.
At one point, she like cracks a joke and then starts laughing at it. And then she tells Mayra, stop making me laugh at her. Because, you know, her ribs are broken.
Yeah, it's a pretty horrific accident. She was very lucky to survive.
Yeah, but she totaled Mayra's
Toyota, yeah.
Toyota makes its appearance. I think last book we had a Honda, right? So now we got Toyota coming in going like, hey, what about me? Toyota. So yeah, so that's Donna. They're really close friends. Actually, when the sleepwalking gets so bad that Mayra's mom wants to take her upstate to her uncle's lake house, Donna's actually invited along on this basically family getaway. So she's like one of the family that are that chill. I feel like I don't know what to say about this character other than, wow, what a great friend.
These characters aren't very fleshed out in this particular book, so there really isn't much to say.
Yeah, you're right. I guess the most fleshed out character was actually Mrs. Cutler, whatever. Her character, crotchety old lady.
I don't think she was ever crotchety, though.
Well, no, because she supposedly filed a complaint against Mayra's mom after her hospital stay, right? That's a little bit of a crotchety thing, right?
I feel like when you're in a hospital, you're pretty crotchety because you're in a hospital.
Right.
It just brings out...
Right, okay, you're right. So basically, Mrs. Cutler is the woman that Mayra is working for this summer. Her summer job is a pretty sweet gig. Basically, she's taking care of this old woman. She has to fix her lunch, read to her, and take her for a walk. If she falls down, she can help her or whatever. It's an easy job, and she's getting paid $5 an hour. Yeah, probably minimum wage at the time, but $5 an hour is not bad for what she's doing.
Right. And she's reading books that she likes.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff might even be on her summer reading list. What was she read?
I think she was reading Dickens.
Which one was it?
It wasn't Great Expectations.
No.
Because
she'd already read that one.
Right, Nicholas Nickleby?
It was Nicholas Nickleby, and she really liked it a lot better than Great Expectations. I have read neither of those. I've only read one Dickens novel.
Great Expectations is pretty good. What Dickens novel have you read?
Tale of Two Titties. Tale of Two Cities.
I'm not entirely sure if you read Tale of Two Cities or you read the porno equivalent.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times, right?
Was that the only thing you read from that book?
No, I read the whole book.
Okay.
It was about London and Paris. Those are the two cities. Just like the two towers are Orthanc and like Barad-dûr. So Mrs. Cutler, she's actually a prestigious professor who studied the occult. This is the kind of character you'd expect to see in the Scooby-Doo series.
Or Buffy.
Yeah. In any case, she's actually pretty chill. And she's got a cute cat who's black. We mentioned this already. Let's get into the crazy people in Mayra's life.
Okay, so first let's talk about her boyfriend Walker, who wants to be a magician.
Yeah, Walker, Texas Ranger.
He's totally banging Suki.
Yeah, the guy is not faithful. He's also kind of a creep and just a general all-around weirdo.
Yeah, he's basically only with Mayra to keep her from remembering something that happened the previous time they saw each other.
Yeah, like
weeks
last
ago.
month or whatever. And basically, this guy's an amateur magician, but he has like aspirations of becoming basically the greatest. He wants to be the next Houdini.
But his magic tricks are so simple.
They're pretty mundane, but he taught himself a little bit of hypnosis, and one time it actually works. One time it works. Every other time it doesn't really work. He managed to pull it off one time. I guess there's a lot on the line. Yeah, so for the first part of the book, he's out west on a family road trip. Then he comes back. Their relationship is really kind of lukewarm. There's a point where Mayra really wants to bang, and he's just kind of like, let's just go walk. And it's kind of like, wow, really? You're her boyfriend? Like,
I mean, I think that's the reader's because that's before you find out about him and Suki Thomas.
right.
So I think that's the sign to the readers that says something's wrong with this relationship.
Yeah, at that point, personally, I began to suspect him. I was like, something's not right about this guy. Maybe not exactly at that point, specifically. As soon as he comes back, it just didn't seem right. Like, he never kissed her. She was always kissing him on the cheek or whatever.
Well, she did make it seem like it was like that because of how reserved he is. She says that he's very kind of uptight in a way.
Yeah.
So she makes it seem like he is emotionally repressed, and that's why she needs to kiss him to bring it out.
Yeah, and he always blushes. Point is, she's coming home from work one day, and she catches him at the
Pizza parlor
having a Coke with Suki and holding hands.
Yeah, she literally walks in on them holding hands, and he just says...
staring into each other's eyes.
Yeah, he says, no, I was showing her a magic trick or something.
Yeah, he was hiding a coin. She's like, where's the coin? And Suki's like, I couldn't find it.
And Mayra falls for this.
She's so simple. But she's got a lot going on at that time, so...
She has been sleepwalking into Fear Lake.
Yeah, it's...
And she hasn't... No, and also she hasn't been sleeping because she's too scared
exactly.
that she would end up sleepwalking.
Exactly, yeah, so you gotta cut her a break there. The problem here is... So there's something else going on here. So she broke up with her ex-boyfriend, Link.
Was that a common name back in the day? Because I looked it up. Zelda came out in 1986.
Right, so obviously he's not named after the character.
R.L. Stine could have named him after the character.
He could have, but the Link's parents did not name him.
He's also very creepy.
He's not taking the breakup very well.
No, he's stalking her.
Yeah, keeps showing up, and yeah, he's obviously stalking her.
And he's trying to get her in his car, and then he tries to get her to make out with him.
And then he gets really angry.
Yeah, it's not normal.
You know what else isn't normal?
His sister?
His sister, who's...
Stephanie?
Yeah, she's described as really looking up to him, and also being very similar to him, and they have an unusual relationship.
Yes, they're very, very close.
Yeah.
For brother and sister.
Right. And so she's like super protective about the fact that Mayra broke up with him. And so she actually comes into Mayra's house and bitches her out for dumping her brother. Like, how dare you? He's so great. How could you do this? Really kind of creepy. Also is wearing Mayra's scarf and doesn't give it back.
Well, she gives it back and then she takes it after she's done ranting.
It's kind of weird. And Mayra's a little bit butthurt because apparently Link and Stephanie are from a well-off family, and obviously Mayra is a little bit, she's feeling the struggle. We mentioned Stephanie already earlier. She's into like the whole witchcraft thing a little bit. She's got Stephanie's scarf. So now Stephanie has enough evidence here to suspect that maybe Stephanie's also a witch because, she's got an article of her clothing.
Well, one thing we haven't mentioned is that Link and Stephanie are related to Mrs. Cutler.
Yeah, and then the thing is, Stephanie told this to Mayra already.
Mayra storms into Stephanie's room. She just storms into the house, first of all, and then she storms into the room. She walks in.
Yeah, no one's home.
No one's home.
She just barges in, goes to Steph's room.
Starts rummaging through Steph's room.
No, Steph's in there.
Oh, Steph's in there, okay.
Steph's in there performing some kind of like witchcraft ritual or whatever.
And isn't a scarf there?
Her scarf is wrapped around her head because she just got out of the shower. She wants to keep her hair out of her face. But she barges in.
And she just starts...
I know what you've been up to. You and your aunt
She makes these accusations, like, I found out that she's related to you.
Yeah.
And Stephanie just goes... I told you that when I got you the job. Weren't you paying attention? What is wrong with you?
Yeah, this is like that lunchroom confrontation from the surprise party. It's like completely over the top. As a reader, if up to this point you haven't figured out yet that there's no actual witchcraft involved, this is where it would absolutely have to dawn on you. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, this is echoing back to the surprise party. Oh yeah, there is no witchcraft. Oh, I have to look for something else. Although, I mean, there's a lot of hints up to this point.
Well, unfortunately, Mayra did not get to read the book, so she's living this and doesn't know that there's no witchcraft involved. So she basically gets Walker to help her break into Mrs. Cotler's house and find more stuff.
Yeah, so this happened before the Stephanie incident. That's how she finds out that they're related, even though she could have already known had she been paying attention.
Clearly, Donna and Stephanie were at different levels of friendship.
So we got another character here, Cal. Cal is described as...
muscly?
His neck is thicker than his head. Blonde hair? Did he have blonde hair, I think?
I just remember he was very muscly and big.
Huge, like 7 feet tall. And
he keeps chasing her.
And lives on Fear Street. You actually find out... Are we saving this for the in-depth plot, or can I just say now what happened?
You need this for the character introduction, right?
Basically, Walker killed Cal's brother in a hit-and-run accident.
They basically knock Cal's car into the river.
I mean, it's pretty bad. Honestly, I'm just gonna go in-depth right now. Walker steals a car, drives it some insane speed up the winding road, up the, Lover's Leap cliff to the makeout spot, goes around the blank corner, and there's another car heading their way, and he just fucking rams that shit right into the river off the cliff. Mayra wants to help. She sees Cal get out of the sinking car and
he's waving and screaming for help.
Yeah. He dives back in to try to save his brother who's still trapped in the car. You know, maybe if she and
Walker
had gone down there, it would have been fine. You know what? It was just an accident. Who's to say that he was going too fast? The police would never find that out. Yeah, he stole a car because some kids had made fun of his magic. Yeah.
But that is an over-the-top reaction. But his dad was also on his case about the magic.
Yeah.
So it was like a whole thing that sort of spiraled out of control. And I'm sure it would not have ended well for him.
Yeah, so what happens is that this is revealed right at the end of the book. This is like the second to last chapter where you find out what exactly happened. This is right after they started dating and their third or fourth date. He steals a car, forces Mayra to come with him, convinces her at first that it's, his mom's car, but she sees him adjusting the seat and stuff, so she realizes pretty soon that he's stolen the car because he obviously didn't drive it there. Also, he's just so angry or whatever. He's driving up the road, going some insane speed, knocks the car off the cliff. His reaction, instead of trying to help, which is what Mayra wants to do, is to grab her, shove her in the car, and drive away. He then hypnotizes her so that she'll forget what happened. And this is why she's having these sleepwalking incidents. And it's explained by a psychiatrist at the hospital when she finally goes to visit and figure out why she's sleepwalking.
Right, so going back to Cal, he sees Mayra walking back from Mrs. Cotler's, and he recognizes her pretty quickly. So he starts chasing after her. He saw Mayra, so he thought that she was the driver. And that's why he so desperately wants to catch her. And then later he sees her in the psychiatric ward of the hospital.
Yeah, because he's there. He had a broken ankle because he also crashed his truck when he ran Donna off the road. He was in the hospital for the same reason Donna was in the hospital.
He was in that accident, so he hurt himself.
Yeah.
And he was in the hospital for an appointment for his broken ankle.
Yeah.
And he sees Mayra there, and he starts chasing her again.
Yeah.
And obviously that does not fly in a hospital.
But then for some reason, everyone says, they didn't see him. So I thought at that point, he must just be a figment of her, delusion.
It would be more a hallucination from lack of sleep.
Well, I thought it was, somehow part of the hypnosis. Because at that point, I was already thinking, she must be hypnotized. Because very early on in the book, Walker keeps talking hypnosis and hypnosis and hypnosis. So you know right away, she must be hypnotized. So I thought this was a figment of the hypnosis. But it wasn't. The guy's real. his brother freaking died, so, you gotta cut him a lot of slack.
It's very traumatic.
That sucks. Walker's a fucking little dweeb for running away instead of, owning up to his own mistakes.
I think we have one character left before we really go into everything.
So I'm really hating on Walker, and guess what? He gets his comeuppance. At the end, Mayra figures out that she was hypnotized, but she wants to make sure. So she asks Walker to come to Miss Cutler's house one last time and asks him to hypnotize her to make the sleepwalking.
Aren't they at Fear Lake? She brings him to Fear Woods, Fear Lake, and then she ends up running to Mrs. Cutler's house.
She pretends to get hypnotized. She's not actually hypnotized, and he tells her, while he's supposedly hypnotizing her, he's not actually, because he actually sucks at this. He tells her, hey, you're gonna forget about that yellow car that crashed into the river. And then she wakes up, she stops pretending and goes, I freaking knew it, you murdering so-and-so.
He does try to drown her.
He does, yeah.
This.
He grabs her right by the neck.
Shoves her into the water.
Shoves her head right under the water. And this is where our next character comes in. Hazel, the cat, claws at his face. Right as Mayra's about to drown and die, she hears him screaming, and his face is all bloody and clawed up, and the cat's attacking him. So she runs back to the house. She gets back to the house.
And there is Hazel.
Yeah, just purring like a kitten, like nothing happened. But she manages to call the police. Right as she gets off the phone with the cops, a brick comes flying through the window, and in comes Walker.
But lucky for Mayra, Cal, who's also a friggin' stalker, hears everything, sees everything, and goes after Walker.
Actually, she kind of escapes from Walker. She's about to run out the door, actually. And she's faced with Cal. She's like, oh my goodness. Out of the frying pan and into the fire. And he just brushes her aside and goes straight for Walker and just grabs him by the throat. A lot of throat grabbing here. Knocks him down on the ground. I really think he was about to kill him. The police show up. Yeah, so we're getting into the in-depth plot now. The police actually have a good response time in this book, unlike the previous ones where you could dial 911 from a murder scene and get nothing. Police show up within minutes of that 911 call, so that was good on them.
This book takes place before the previous two books, by the way, because this is the summer break before the school year starts.
It's kind of concurrently almost / before.
School hasn't started yet, so it's not concurrent.
I see. So what you're saying is the police department is basically in the cult. Once they all get arrested,
yep,
their response time gets much slower due to understaffing. My initial reaction was it's a pretty standalone book, but we do get mention, obviously, of Suki Thomas. We get a shout out about Pete Goodwin, whose parents apparently upgraded the Subaru to a Porsche.
So you say there's evidence in the book that says that Shady Side's in Ohio.
Oh yeah, so this is the big one, guys. This is the big breakthrough. I've been claiming Shady Side's in Ohio this whole time, and this has just been based on the fact that R.L. Stein's from Ohio. Is he from Ohio? I just assumed he's from... I know he lives in New York. Whatever. Something made me assume it was in Ohio. Probably the name of the river. The name of the river is a very Ohio type of name. But let's go a little bit into depth here. Place names. Very, very important. We have a place name here. The Uncle's Lake House is at Lake Monaloc. Now, Lake Monaloc is completely, made up. There's no Lake Monaloc. If you search Google for Lake Monaloc, all you'll come up with is the Google book scan of Fear Street, the Sleepwalker. Okay, that's the only search result you'll get. But Monaloc is French for Mono Lake. Mono Lake's in California, but that doesn't matter. It's French. That's the key point. So, where in the country would you have French place names? Well, anywhere that used to be part of New France. Before the French and Indian War, Ohio and the rest of the Midwest had a lot of French trading posts and military forts, and as a consequence also had a lot of French place names as the French, were colonizing that area. The French lost that war, and the British, and soon thereafter the Americans, took that place over. But to this day, there are many, many, many French place names. I used to live in Illinois, and I can tell you, a lot of French place names out in the Midwest. Right away, okay, this isn't New England, guys. There ain't gonna be no French place names in New England. It's not gonna be the Mid-Atlantic region. It's not gonna be the South. It's gonna be somewhere either the Midwest or perhaps the Plains or maybe down by Louisiana, something like that. You get another clue later on.
Montpelier is a French name.
But this isn't in Vermont.
No, I know it's not, but I'm just saying that...
Because later on in the book, it's mentioned that it's not Vermont.
No, but what I'm saying is, you said that they don't have French place names in New England area.
My point here is that the second clue comes when the character of Walker goes on his family road trip. And he goes out west, and they go out west by the south route, and they come back by the north route, and they hit all the national parks. He has a t-shirt from Arizona, so you know right away, they don't live in any western state. They've got to be living somewhere probably west of the, east of the Mississippi, probably. At most, the farthest west they would be is Missouri, maybe. And then the other thing that they talk about is how they had to drive southwest. And so that tells you they're probably not from any southern state. So, yeah, there could be French place names in Louisiana, but probably not going to be driving southwest to get to Arizona. Also, if you look at any of the flora and fauna around Shadyside, you know it's a northern state. You don't see any of the trees and plants that you normally find down south. And they do talk about the seasons, like snow in the winter, the heat of the summer, all of that stuff. Very Midwestern weather. So I'm pretty sure it's Ohio. It could be another Midwestern state based on the evidence we actually have from this book, which is the first book that gives really a lot of evidence about exactly where Shadyside is located. But my money's on Ohio.
R.L. Stine was born in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, well, there you go. Central City. Didn't I say that last episode? Do you have some plot holes? Let me hear them.
So let's go into plot issues or thing issues or little nitpicks I had. When she goes to see her psychiatrist, she keeps looking at signs that say psychiatric. I don't know how things were done in the 90s. Maybe that's how they labeled it. But we tend to label it psychiatry or the psychiatric floor. But it doesn't just say psychiatric. That kind of bothered me.
One possible explanation here, play devil's advocate. She hadn't slept in how long at this point? Maybe she wasn't reading it right.
It's not just what she's reading. It has the little sign in a different italicized thing.
That did strike me as kind of odd. I didn't necessarily think of it as a plot hole, but
I said nitpicks as well.
It did strike me as odd at the time, but I didn't know any better.
And also, HIPAA doesn't come out until 1996, so I suppose her mom's blatant violation of patient confidentiality was acceptable in the early 1990s.
You mean talking about Kotler?
Yes. You can't talk about people who were your patients or what they were like, or the fact that they were your patients. I mean, nowadays, like I said, I don't know what it was like in 1990. And also, how many times did she sleepwalk before she was able to see a psychiatrist? Why did her mom not do something after the first time? Better locks on the door. Sleep with her daughter.
Well, she wanted to have Kim sleep with her, but for some reason that didn't happen.
Mayra said no. And that was the end of that. I mean, I feel like there were many things her mom could have and should have done. Because
before her daughter almost drowned in the lake?
Yeah, there was one of her sleepwalkings. She was in the lake and a fisherman happened to be there and saved her life.
In the middle of the night.
I mean, I don't know.
What are the chances of that?
If you're Lake Guardian, I suppose. But no, I mean...
Yeah, what was the quote? "You're the only one I caught tonight."
She was put in a very dangerous situation, in a sense, by her own mother. Because once you know that this is happening, it didn't just happen once. After the second time, she should have done something. And then it happened a third time. That's a bit much.
It happened like 4 or 5 times.
Right.
It was pretty bad.
So I'm saying that, this is when you get better locks on the door. This is where you sleep with your daughter. This is where you have your daughter sleep with you.
I would have, honestly, I'm not a parent, but if I was a parent, I would imagine that I would be more concerned about this issue.
And she did love her kids, and she was not a negligent parent, so I don't know what was going on there. And as a nurse, I'm really surprised she let it go on for this long, and she just waited for this one psychiatrist to come back from his vacation. Weird. I mean, at that point, bring her to see her GP, bring her to see anyone.
That's true. I mean...
You don't need to necessarily just see a specialist for it. Just go see your GP. He can try to figure it out. Yeah. Go see any psychologist.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, she probably already has a doctor. That doctor could probably already provide a prescription for sleeping pills or whatever.
Or just see a psychologist. You don't need to see a psychiatrist.
Yeah, a psychologist could have told her the same exact thing about repressed memories.
Right, or go to any mental health person. There are therapists that aren't psychologists or psychiatrists who could have helped her too.
The Fear Street mythos.
Can we talk about those creepy kids in the cemetery?
Yeah, so the blonde twins playing together in the cemetery laughing. And then when Mayra looks again, they're gone, but she can still hear their laughter.
That's creepy. Kids have this innate ability to be really creepy. Like, sometimes they just start laughing.
Especially twins.
Yeah? It's like The Shining.
Got these 2 blonde twins, a boy and a girl. The cat right? What's up with that? The cat's outside, but then, like, she runs inside and the cat's already inside. And then, once again, the kids in this book take Fear Street way too seriously. It's actually a part of the book I bookmarked because this is ridiculous. He shrugged. The half-smile faded. His dark eyes burned into hers. You shouldn't be alone in the Fear Street woods, Mayra. You've lived in Shadyside long enough to know that. Wow. This is going back to my rant from earlier. Like, everyone in Shadyside just indoctrinated to fear Fear Street. By the way, we met 3 different residents of Fear Street in this book, and aside from Cal, they're all pretty normal, and guess what? Cal can be excused because, you know, he just suffered a tragic loss, so honestly, they're always like, in the first book, the residents of Fear Street were described as being like a bunch of weirdos. No, in this book, they're all pretty normal people. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I think it's pretty funny that someone who studies the occult lives on Fear Street. Like, do you think she just bought a house on Fear Street because she studies the occult?
Oh, like
and
just for shits and giggles?
Yeah, she heard everything that was going on. She's like, you know what?
Yeah, probably. I bet that's what happened.
And then she got a crotchety neighbor who hates her pears.
Yeah. Wasn't it peaches?
The peaches?
Yeah.
Peaches are great. Why couldn't he just eat the peaches?
Or, yeah, he wants to chop down her tree. Why not just cut down the branches that are overhanging his property? And then the peaches won't fall on his property anymore. What's the big deal?
Well, thank goodness he ended up in the hospital.
She actually seemed very pleased with that.
Seemed like a huge asshole, so good riddance.
Yeah, so did you find any 90s things here?
Not really.
Yeah, I feel like translating this book into, like, the modern times wouldn't be that tough. Pretty much.
His cheating, I mean, she would have seen things on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat. Someone would have sent her something, but she still would have shrugged it off.
Right.
So that's the only difference that I could see. But it's not really a 90s thing, that's more a how to modernize it type thing.
Yeah, I mean, his family took a big family road trip. I feel like air travel is more common nowadays than it used to be.
For rich people.
How many black cats out of 5 would you give this book?
I gave it a 2 on Goodreads, but that's only because 1.5 rounds to 2. I was not impressed with this book. I felt like characters were just blah. The psychiatric, mental health issues I felt weren't handled well, and that really bothered me. And I just felt that,
Yeah, I have to agree with you on this one. Even though I didn't catch on to the whole psychiatric mental health issues, I would still give this book a 1 black cat out of 5, easily.
Not the greatest.
No, definitely not.
And Mayra just needs to not get creepy boyfriends. She ends up back with Link at the end of this book. Girl,
Right.
Please, no. He's creepy, he stalked you, he can't take no as an answer, just no.
Oh, by the way, in the whole grand scheme of the Fear Street series, Link and Mayra versus Lisa and Corey, what do you think?
I would rather have a dysfunctional relationship like Corey and Lisa's where they can both just break up and be done with it. Because Corey just would not realize anything. He'd be like, okay. And Lisa would just be like, I'm done with it. I'm tired of this. Whereas Link will just stalk her till the end of time.
Right.
And no one needs that in their life.
Right, and then Stephanie will be knocking on her door. Why aren't you with Link right now?
Oh
You
my
should
God.
be in his bed. What's wrong with you?
How dare you say no to him?
I miss those times when I used to hide in the closet and watch you guys.
This whole relationship is a nope. Like, talk to your therapist.
Nope.
Deal with your daddy issues. Deal with your issues and just get out of this relationship.
Yeah.
No.
Predictions?
So the next book is Haunted. There's a prowler in Melissa's room. But is he dead or alive? The cover it's obviously Melissa. She's in bed, and the window's closed, but right next to the window is this really hunky looking guy. He's in a denim jacket with jeans on. So
And a white t-shirt.
that's 90s right
1950s American badass right
Wow.
here.
On the cover, the moonlight is sort of going through him.
Yeah.
So what's your prediction?
Well, and it looks like you can't really see his legs below where the window cuts off. So my prediction is this is actually an image. Well, actually, you can see the window through him. Look at
I
that.
just said
He looks like a ghostly apparition. So my projection is,
Your projection?
yeah, I gave away what my prediction is. I think it's some kind of projector.
Oh, that's like classic Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, exactly. This is like classic Scooby-Doo or classic The Nice Guys.
Ooh.
Yeah, we just watched that movie recently. We both liked it. Anyway, yeah, I think this is some kind of projection. Somebody's definitely messing with Melissa.
Well, what's the weapon?
Oh, geez, weapon.
What's the crime? What's going on?
Weapon and crime. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess
Who's the murderer?
there's obviously a murder. Every Fear Street book is a murder.
Why do people move to Shady Side? I'm sorry, I don't understand.
The murder rate.
There are so many murders. It does not make sense.
Right. It's pretty bad. It must be like one of the most violent communities in America.
I don't understand how anything is working for these people. It's just really bizarre to me.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up. So I'm guessing it's another one of those things where there's probably going to be some kind of like robbery or theft, and there's going to be some kind of attempt to cover it up. And so this whole Prowler deal is probably part of that. What do you think?
What's the weapon?
Geez, it's going to be a gun again, and it's going to be a male.
Yeah, that's basically, you just stole my prediction. Because it says in the caption in the front, there's a prowler in Melissa's room, but is he dead or alive? I don't think that projection thing works for me, so I won't go with that. But I do think there's like a burglary type thing going on.
Right?
Yeah. Definitely, I want to go with gun as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always said that I don't want to have the same weapon as you, so I have to go with something different. So I'll go with... We haven't had strangulation yet, have we? Well, hopefully someone has it coming in this book. I'll go with a male murderer because every murder victim has been a male and every protagonist has been a female since the first book. I mean, we had the alternating one for missing, but overall, that's what I'm seeing.
Murder victim? You mean like murderer, right?
Yeah, murderer
Yeah.
is a male, sorry. I do think she saw somebody in her room. I don't think it's a projection.
Okay.
And I don't think it's a ghost because nothing has been supernatural.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. There's definitely no ghost. Like, whatever she's seeing is not a ghost. There might be, like, one of those random little snippets that's like, oh, was it a ghost? But it's like a throwaway one sentence somewhere. We're not saying that won't happen.
You know what made the Sleepwalker kind of boring, I think?
What?
There's nothing that really added to our whole evil corporation thing.
She does mention some mud or clay or something at one point.
I mean, there's mud in the woods by the lake.
Right.
That's not really a revelation. So
what was that fisherman guy doing on the lake at night? Was he a corporation security guard, like patrolling the perimeter?
Maybe he was doing some surveying.
Oh,
maybe he's a surveyor.
There you go. Yeah, he clearly wasn't doing a very good job fishing, that's for sure. Yeah, there's not that much, but you could like...
This was not an extremely thrilling book.
No, that's why I gave it a 1 star. It's a 1 star, but it's even worse than the other 1 stars I've given so far. It's not as good as, for example, The New Girl, which I also gave 1 star to. So it's maybe like 0.75.
Well, you gave New Girl 2 stars initially, but then you downgraded it.
Yes, it's 1 star.
Right, but your initial thought was 2 stars.
The point is, current timeline, it's 1 star.
For some reason, watching The Pretender made you downgrade. I don't understand why. I still don't get it.
Don't you get it, though? All right, guys. We've had a great time recording this latest episode, and we hope you join us next time.
Thanks for listening to another thrilling episode of RetRead Podcast.
If you like what you hear, give us a shout out.
If not, let us know why in the comments.
Don't forget to rate, review, comment, share, like, and subscribe.
You can follow us at RetRead Podcast on Twitter and Facebook.
Or send suggestions or fan mail to red.read.podcast@gmail.com.
Until next time.
Peace!